Okay. I see a few attendees have joined, and I think it's just taking some people some time.
I see recording. The light.
You know, if it's unsuccessful, you can always post the recording from Zoom later.
Okay. I mean, we do that on our YouTube channel. I'm just going to save a screenshot of the issue. Yeah, it's just not.
Ellen's in the waiting room.
Okay. Waiting room. Okay. I just have unable to live stream. So I think that there is just it must be a difficulty on their end.
Okay, so we're complying with all aspects of the open meetings law by
Yes.
having this meeting on Zoom and then posting the recording later?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, it's 7:08. This is the February 24th, 2021 meeting of the Village of Mamaroneck Planning Board. Sorry, we're a little late. We're experiencing technical difficulties, and right now we're not able to live stream. So hopefully you've joined by Zoom. We have an agenda tonight. We have approval of some minutes. We have 2 new applications for site plan review. And then the planning board will go into executive session for advice of counsel on ongoing lawsuits against the planning board. We will then return to the regular session simply to adjourn the meeting. And but before we do that, announce any actions that we may or may not take or may take in executive session, although at this point in time, no actions are anticipated. Okay, so let's start then. We have minutes before us of the December 9th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion? First, I guess if anybody has any comments or questions, I have none.
Mine is so minor, but I think in the roll call, John wasn't there, but he was excused.
No, he was recused.
Well, he was recused on one issue, which it states later, but he was not recused, for example, on the minutes. So I just didn't know if that was such a minor technicality.
Yeah. I said the same thing, and then there was really only one item on the agenda, and he was recused from that. But the minute
doesn't matter to me. I just figured.
Yeah, I guess to be technical, but again, I don't think it really matters.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. He did contact us beforehand and tell us that he wasn't coming. So we're covering for you, John. All right, anybody else have any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Then I'll second.
Okay.
Usual vote.
All in favor? I'm going to ask Ellen first, who's muted. Ellen, you're muted, because this is the first meeting that Ellen attended.
Yes, I approved.
Okay, John?
I was recused.
That's right, you weren't here, so you have to abstain from voting on the minutes. Cindy?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And again, our thanks to Barbara for a good set of minutes. Okay, so we have site plan review. The first one up, and both of these are for in-ground swimming pools. The first one up is for 680 Barrymore Avenue. And while we gather the speakers to present this application to us, we
If
have
you
been invited.
If you could raise your hand if you are the applicant or part of the applicant team, thank you.
And we've been advised by our excellent planning team here that we need to type this action under secra, and because it's a private home, it's a type 2 action. So while we're assembling people, do I have a motion to declare this application a type 2 under secra?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? John,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so, we have the applicant's engineer with us. Is that correct, or architect? Okay, who's here to speak for the applicant?
I'm the applicant.
The
and
applicant. Okay.
Yes. I'm an engineer, but I'm not the engineer of record on this project.
There you are. Okay, hi.
Oh.
So we want to present the project to the board?
Yes, yes. I guess I'll do it with the screen share.
Yes, one moment. That is enabled. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Hang on.
Let me just check my view. I don't see, I'm trying to, let me get the screen share view. Galleries.
It should be at the bottom. There's a green button that says screen share, and then you have to select the screen that you wish to share. Or
Okay, I'll do it again. Okay. Screen one.
all screens.
Okay. Does that work? Are you able to now see it? You're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the homeowner and applicant on this project. We moved into the house in 2011. We've done some exterior renovations thus far, redoing the facade and such. And what we're proposing is to put an in-ground pool in the rear of the property. The property is it's a low point in the air. In the property is kind of a somewhat kind of recessed area, and we're proposing to raise the grade by approximately up to 3 feet, and then do an in-ground pool. And to raise the grade, we'll be putting a retaining wall on basically 4 sides of that area. Maybe I'll jump to I think I'll start with the pictures. It'll kind of maybe help to show it a little bit better. Just give you a better idea. Let me see, servo type site plan. Existing pics. Boom. So this is the area where the trampoline is, where we would put the pool. As you can see, my rear neighbor has an existing pool there. This is a picture taken from a low roof on the back side of the property. This is another picture, just another vantage point, slightly different. This is from the rear yard looking down into that area. As you can see, it's a little bit of a recessed area that tends not to be terribly useful. We're trying to make some use of that area. This on the left side of this picture is the existing patio, and we're proposing to extend that existing patio out to what is currently that graveled area. And then there would be steps approximately where the barbecue is, just a few steps down. It won't be level with the rest of the yard. So there'll be a few steps down there to get to the raised area. This is the view from the street, looking down the side yard into the rear property. And that's it for pictures. This is the earth view of the house. You can see there are some trees on neighboring property to the left side, to the rear side. There's one tree on my property that will come out as part of the project. That's a relatively small dogwood. And then there's some trees on at the top of the driveway, some large canopy trees that will remain. And we do have existing trees as well. The trees on the rear property of the property on the right-hand side are not shown on my survey. When they updated the survey, they left them out. I don't think they understood that, that would be important to show those, but I could certainly add those. And there are two trees in the front of the property that the village planted. Actually, without telling us, they put them in, and they're okay, I guess. They're not exactly where I would have put them. They're not symmetrical. One of them is not, it's installed perpendicular to the ground and not vertically. So it's kind of an issue, but I guess we'll deal with that. So that's kind of an overview of the site. Let me go back to the site plan. There will be a patio around the pool. Within the required side yard and rear yard setback areas, that patio will be just set in gravel and stone dust. It will not be with a cementitious base. But on the right side of the pool and the patio extension, the intent is to make that a regular bluestone patio matching the existing flagstone patio. The retaining wall will be not terribly visible on our property. It'll be mostly visible on the property on the left-hand side. We've been coordinating with that neighbor. And on the rear side, the retaining wall will not be actually visible because the neighbors have an existing wall. And to not impose any loads on that, we will be basically building just right up against it. Approximately, that's basically the limit. So that this CMU wall existing is the limit, basically how high will our new wall will go. On top of all of the retaining walls, we'll be putting fencing, just a very simple aluminum black fence that just as required by code. And the intent there is, with the plantings, we hope that that'll be kind of not so visible from either side, that with bushes growing up against it, it'll kind of blend in. And then there'll be a few steps at the change of grade from the rear as you go into the side yard there. The drainage plan is intended we have currently designed for 3 Coltech systems and trench drains picking up the patio area piped over to those, and also a trench drain at the patio extension also piped into that Coltech system. In a nutshell, that's really it. We have an existing AC unit in the back, behind the house here. I don't know if you could see my cursor. And that'll just get raised to the new grade, and then we'll have some pool mechanical equipment tucked in there and screened by plantings as well. The pool will be, it'll be a gunite pool between 3 and I think 5.5 feet, 5 foot, 3.5 to 5 foot deep pool. I think in general, the neighbors are supportive, especially in the location. It's an area that's kind of not super sightly now, and with the plantings that we'll be putting, we hope that we'll be able to give the neighbors actually some more privacy for their pool, their existing pool. That's just on the rear, the lot behind us. In a nutshell, that's it. We're going to put, these will be evergreen plantings. I got the landscape architect's comments. We'll identify those. Those will be some sort of evergreen, whether it be laurels or either we're undecided between laurels and Nellie Stevens holly, something that's deer resistant and evergreen and, not too fast growing. And then grass around that area as well. And that's really it. The access for all the work will be up the driveway and coming off the driveway and the top of the driveway and cutting back here. That'll be the access for trucks and bringing in materials in and out. That's the overview. Any questions about that?
I'm trying to understand the fencing a little bit better. I think you said that there would be a fence on top of the stone wall, which would surround the pool on all four sides.
Yes.
And so how high from grade is the stone wall?
So it won't be a stone wall. It'll actually be like a interlocking wall system. And the fencing, the wall at any point will just be approximately 4 to 6 inches above the new grade. And then the fence will sit directly on top of that. And that fence is going to be a 48 high inch fence, aluminum, narrow gap aluminum fence that's meant for pools.
Okay, so if that's the configuration all the way around, how many gates do you have to that area?
We'll have just 2 gates. There will be one here to access from the rear, and then a secondary gate here, just to afford access in this direction on the left side from the side yard.
Oh, okay, but that side yard gate is not actually, you still have to get into the pool area, is that right?
So once you come up this side yard gate, you'll be at the new grade. You'll go some stairs here, 2 to 3 steps. And then you go through the gate and then you're up at this new grade, which is 25 feet. So it's a rise of basically at that point, it's only a rise of about 1.5 feet from the existing grade at this corner. And then over here, it'll be similar. We're bringing it to 25, so it'll be a step or 2 as well in this current area.
So let me go back. Can I go back? Show me the side area again. I just want to understand that. So when you go through that side gate from the front of the house to the back of the house, you are within the pool area. So you have steps. You're leveling the grade, but you will be in the contained area that a 4-foot fence is surrounding.
Yes.
Okay.
And that fence will be it'll basically land on the rear left corner of the house, right where this gutter is shown.
So there's no fence there, obviously, but the pool area is enclosed between the fence and the house. The house serves as a barrier.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. And there are no entrances or exit from the house, just windows. So there's no way somebody can go out to that area without going through the outside and through the fence.
And why are you using the 4 or 5 inch sort of material fence that you're going to then put the fencing material on top of?
Why am I mean, why are we using that particular retaining wall style?
Yeah, I was just sort of wondering, why would you just put in a fence?
Well, no, because we do want to raise the grade. It's really like we just feel that it's too much of a slope to go down there into that low area. And I just feel like it's kind of in a well area when you're down there. You kind of have you have a feeling that you're kind of set low. So just to get a little bit more natural light in there and to have less steps down to the pool from the patio.
Okay.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. So you want to raise the grade, not because you have to, but because you want to? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, that's correct. Also there, in case there's any stone, rock or anything like that, we want to limit how much rock we have to remove. But
Well, okay. The reason I'm asking, I think we have two things here, two paths that we have to follow. So let's stay on this one while we're here. You saw, obviously, because you referenced a memo from the planning board's landscape architect, Susan Oakley, who pointed out that by raising the grade 3 feet on the back of your property, you'd be possibly impacting the root system of the mature trees on your neighbor's property.
yes.
Okay, so what's the mitigation for that?
Well, we've spoken to the neighbors about that. They've already lost one of those trees. Not the ones that are currently shown, but in recent years they've taken down at least one, maybe 2 trees along that property line. So they're not opposed to if they have to take down one of those trees. I mean, we've I think it's a little bit of a discussion who's going to pay for that. And then, pay to replace them with another planting. But the trees also come onto the property a lot, onto my property a lot. So they're the branches of those trees are, easily 10 feet onto my property. So I would be trimming those branches anyways. To get basically light so I can have air, light at my pool. No.
So, the planning board is not in the habit of damaging trees so that they can be replaced later. We usually try to preserve trees because we need them as a community, not just an individual neighbor or, especially in this era of needing to capture whatever carbon we can from the air. So, okay, all right. But so the way it stands right now is that if the addition of the fill to raise your grade causes any problems to the trees, you would work with the neighbor to remove them and replant something more appropriate on the new grade. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay. And you're trimming the trees that hang over your property anyway.
Yeah. And frankly, the rear neighbor is happy because they don't have much light in their pool. And all the light on you're looking from the south right now. So, between the house and the trees, that area doesn't get much light, and neither does the rear neighbor's pool. So currently, when I'm done, there'll actually be a lot more trees there than there are currently. And also, I think there'll be the ability to grow grass there. Right now, it's kind of.
You're planting shrubs, right? You're not planting trees, you're planting shrubs, correct?
Well, Nellie Stevens holly. Yeah. I mean, that's I guess it's something I planted them. I did similar plantings over here where there's an existing retaining wall. And I did that similar there, and they're about 8 feet tall and growing. So we put something similar there.
Okay. Okay. The second aspect of this, is the stormwater management system. And our consulting engineer, who I don't think is at this meeting tonight.
He's here. Esteban, is that it?
Oh, is Esteban here?
Pardon for the tardiness.
Okay. Okay. This is the first time we've seen this application. So obviously, Mr. Garcia has not done a complete review of it. He did put together a memo just outlining some concerns. But I think that to move forward, you would need to address those concerns with him, and he'll get back to us. We've initiated a process recently where people get everything before the actual meeting. Our consultants, even though the planning board hasn't officially charged them to do the work yet, we get a little jump on things to try to make things move along a little faster. But in this case, obviously, Mr. Garcia has to review the plans more carefully to make sure that we have all of these questions that he's raised answered, to his satisfaction, and then to the planning board satisfaction. Before we move on, though, are you planning any lighting around the pool?
Not initially, but we may just put the pool itself will have light integrated into it. And then if anything, we'll probably just put very low landscape lighting, like similar to what I put in the front of my house, which is like, just to cast light around the trees and not, downward light,
Okay.
fielded lights. At
Yeah,
some
because
point,
that would
maybe.
be a concern for the planning board to do site plan to make sure that none of the neighbors are impacted by any outdoor lights you might put up to use the pool at night.
Yeah, no, I mean, right now, the neighbors, the rear neighbors, for example, have up, lighting up high. That's certainly impacting, my property.
Mhm.
With this project, and the trees that are going in, they'll have, that'll be resolving that issue from their side. And
Okay.
any lighting I would put would be, low to the ground and not upwardly projected. It'd be,
What about a sound system? Are you putting in an
No.
in-ground or anything?
No,
sound
nothing
system?
like that.
Okay. Okay, does anybody on the planning board have any other questions for Mr. Geary?
I have a comment, Kathy, if I may, based on what the applicant was saying.
Okay,
I heard some contradictory comments that maybe he could clarify. That the intention is to wait and see what happens to these neighboring existing trees. Wait, can I finish?
Okay, sure, absolutely.
And then there was another comment where the rear neighbor feels like they have too much light in their property.
No.
So they're going to look forward to more light by the removal of the trees.
No. So my comment was that my rear neighbor has exterior light fixtures illuminating their pool area that shine in their pool area and my yard.
This is not, I'm not talking about the lights at all. I'm
Okay,
going
so
back to
so
the.
when I said that there's an improvement, it's in that respect in terms of not having artificial light coming into my property. And then with respect to daylight, they will have more daylight into their property with the
How?
installation. Well, for one thing, I have my 8-inch tree gives them shading to a certain extent, especially at the angle at which it comes in. This 8-inch tree here, and then that's the main thing. And then the neighboring trees, if I were to trim those, they'll have more light. And if they're removed, then they'll absolutely have more light. They'll have even more light.
You understand that if you trim that conifer, trim the branches off to make room for your pool and walking around the pool surround, that you'll be staring at a bare trunk?
I mean, yeah. I mean, right now it's from my side, it's not a particularly attractive tree as it is. I think there were other trees there lower before us, but yeah, I understand that. And also, I would be trimming it at the elevation that would be filled in with the new plantings on my property.
Okay.
So I guess my question for you folks is then I understand and actually I guess I was made more aware of the concern of the existing trees and their ability to accept this project, if you will, by the landscape memo that I got, that I noticed was posting there yesterday. So it's something that we haven't you know, I don't, it wasn't really, we weren't really aware that this project might impact those trees negatively, you know, with the root systems and such. Wasn't something we had, you know, considered that much, frankly, to that extent. I mean, that's why you guys hire a landscape architect. I see that they.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute? For people who aren't speaking, if you could mute your mics, we're getting some background noise from somebody. That makes it hard to hear the speaker.
Yeah, so I did notice that memo that was issued to the village last week. Obviously, I've been asking the village if there's any update, any input, you know, that we could address it. Of course, I only saw that memo this morning on the agenda, you know, on the minutes, and was able to, you know, so we haven't fully addressed that. You know, if I had gotten when it was issued, certainly I'd be more prepared on that matter. So I'm sorry about that.
If the trees will definitely be at risk based on the foundation needed and.
Well, I want to say this on that matter. The memo states that there will be a solid footing. It kind of insinuates that there'll be a solid footing there, and below the frost line. And with the wall system that we're doing, that's actually one of the reasons that drove us to that decision. The wall system we're doing doesn't need a foundation that goes below the frost line, because it's a foundation says that those wall systems, they can accept minor movements as long as they're well drained. They'll accept minor movements, so you don't need a solid concrete foundation. You know, down whatever it is, 3.5, 4 feet below the.
Is that when they're freestanding or when they're used as a retaining wall?
In both cases. And that's why the engineer put that. That's why when in fact, I talked about it early on, we were thinking about doing a solid rock wall, like you know, with mortar joints, etc. And you know, the point was that we'd have to go down deep and just basically cut out everything in the way to build that foundation for that wall. So our drawing does have a detail and showing the base of that wall as a compacted granular base, and it's not required by the manufacturer to go down. That's really just when you have a solid wall that can't accept movement, because every bit of movement it doesn't go back into place. So these walls can accept some movement, fall back into place, and there'll be a geotextile fabric that goes in between it and ties it back into the soil.
It should be noted that most of in general, tree roots are in the first 18 inches, the top 18 inches of the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So there should also be some plan in your documentation for how the roots will be treated if it is necessary for them to be cut.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we can come up with a plan for that. I guess my question is also, I mean, is the board saying that I'm not allowed to do work on my property that would impact the root systems of trees on neighboring properties?
No, that's not what we're saying.
Okay.
Right. And we wouldn't be able to approve your project tonight anyway. So we just want you to address the issue, and if the neighbor is present tonight, if they would like to address the board, we would also like to hear from the neighbor. But also, if you're taking down a tree on your plan, you should note the existence of that tree and that it's going to be removed.
It is noted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry.
Where?
And we'll add.
Where is it noted? It isn't shown. It needs to be shown on the plan and marked for removal.
Okay.
In addition, it would behoove you to put the other trees on your survey also.
Yeah, I saw that on the engineer's report. We'll put it on there. Yeah, we'll put all the trees on there. We'll add the details for the protection of the trees.
Great.
And, you know, we'll note the Latin names of the trees. We'll hire a Latin speaking tree cutter to make sure it cuts the right ones.
Now when you select your trees, it always shows the proper names of the trees, both the common and the Latin. Okay. Does anybody on the board have any other questions for this applicant? Okay. All right, Mr. Geary, then if you could just address those issues that have come up in the engineer's memo.
I would like to do that. Absolutely. And I think they're all addressable. My main question, because I think and we just got this memo again. This one was only issued yesterday, so I just got it this morning.
We just got it yesterday too.
No, I understand that. So in this case, I guess none of us could do anything about that.
But you have to understand, you're 2 weeks ahead of the game by having him start to look before.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're ahead of the normal timeline. So
yeah, no, I understand. So on that, I guess my main question is to understand like the exact definition so that we know which path we have to take of the limits of disturbance, because whether it's less than 1,000 square feet, up to 2,000 square feet, or greater than 2,000 square feet, maybe the engineer can just describe, that limits of disturbance and what they would like, what they consider that limit of disturbance.
You actually have to note it on the plan. The limits of disturbance counts towards the total area that you will be disturbing on site. So that doesn't include the permanent, what you're putting in permanently, and then also the space that you're using in order to construct the pool and the patio. So all of that would be considered the limits of disturbance. And based off that, within the village code, there's certain stormwater requirements that you have to adhere by in order to get an approval stormwater wise.
Yes. So just so I understand it, because again, like you said, there is the code requirements and it's different depending on how much we're disturbing. So am I correct in understanding, and I did talk to my engineer but today about it, he's got COVID, so he couldn't join us today. Would it be correct to say that more or less where we're putting the retaining wall, like that, anything from the retaining wall in, because I'm only changing grade, say we're at the limits of the retaining wall, and then also, of course, this little patio area. Would that be the correct calculation for the limits of disturbance?
No, it would also be the entrance onto the site as well. So the way the trucks are going to be coming in or excavators in order to be coming in order to construct the site. So all the area within that your contractor would be using in order to construct the pool and the patio.
So we're saying that the limits of disturbance, so if I'm doing a small project here and it's just a temporary disturbance there, okay, temporary disturbance in the rear yard where the trucks are coming through, that gets figured in on the total limit of disturbance.
Correct.
That's what we were afraid of when I spoke to the engineer. He's saying there's not a good definition of that, and to have a stormwater system designed that's permanent, even though there's just going to be a temporary condition there, it seems burdensome.
Your stormwater system would be sized for your permanent disturbance. The limit of disturbance just says basically what the different stormwater requirements that would have to be met. So, for example, if your limit of disturbance was between 200 to 2,000, you will only have to do stormwater control. But if it's higher than that, 2,000 to an acre, then you would have to do stormwater quality. So
if I were to have gravel currently, if I had a gravel path there currently, going from my driveway to the area in question, outside of this application, then I don't have to do anything with the gravel area, then that would be outside of the limit of disturbance, right?
Where just point out.
If I have I don't have the best. So if I were to if I had an existing gravel path from the top of my driveway to the proposed pool area, then that would not be disturbed area, right?
No, if you're not proposing to put it, if it's not part of the final changes or improvements to the site, then no, it wouldn't count. But if you're setting up a gravel path for the workers to do their work
Mhm.
and then remove it after, it
But I
wouldn't.
could, but I could put in a gravel path now without, I mean, I could just put gravel there if I wanted to now outside of this application.
No, you can't. You've already got an open application.
But that's just landscaping unrelated to this project.
Well, not if you're planning on using it to effectuate and make this project happen.
I mean, I mean, I have an existing patio that I have existing patio, I have existing driveway that I'm going to be using. I mean, you know, the trucks will drive over the existing driveway.
But they will be compacting the soils once they get off that driveway, whether you put gravel or not, you'll be compacting the soils underneath. So it is disturbance.
I mean, when I walk on it, I compact the soil though.
Not as much as an excavator.
Gary, we're
and
not going to
trucks.
argue with you here. You know, if you want to, you can take it offline and meet with the building inspector and the engineer. But, you know, driving a multi-ton truck and you walking on the soil, I think you know, you don't have to be an engineer to understand it's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's putting a pretty large burden on the project just to drive a truck across the soil. You know, it gets into the point where where I might need to do some sort of quality, you know, stormwater quality control design. Basically, just even though I'm only adding, you know, 800 and something feet of impervious area to the job, to the site. You know, just because I drove a truck across it and then replanted it with grass.
All right, well, you know, you'll be in conversation, you and your engineer will be in conversations with Mr. Garcia, and if Mr. Tavolacci wants to join in on them offline between this meeting and the next meeting to see if you can satisfy any of the comments and concerns that they have, so you guys can discuss it and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for solutions, and I want to, you know, find stuff. You know, a way to do things, but you know, we put the pool where we put it, you know, to comply with all the zoning requirements and everything. We changed the patio type to not have a questionable accessory construction within the required setback areas. So I want to work within, you know, the letter of the code on my property to do it, you know, to get a project moving so I can, you know, enjoy the beneficial use of my property.
Okay, and we're here to help you, but within the limits of the code.
Within the limits of code, exactly.
Right.
As it relates to.
We're all here to do the same thing.
So you know, rather than us guessing at what you'd like to see, is there something in particular that you would like to see us do with the roots of the neighbor's tree if we're not taking those trees down as part of this project?
If I can just say about that segmented retaining wall, it's true you don't have to go down 3'6" in depth, but even with those walls, you go down at least 2 feet, which is going to impact those roots.
Okay, so is there something I do have to go down, whatever I have to go down per the engineer's judgment and the literature on those walls? Is there, and if I go down 1 inch, of course I'll be touching roots. Is there something that the board wants to see in particular for me to deal with those roots on the neighboring tree that I have to do to get this thing to pass, to have my application approved?
There,
Cindy, are you speaking? We can't hear you.
I don't hear anything.
No, we can't hear you. Sorry.
until she comes back, there are industry standards for treating cut roots. And I can pass on that information to the applicant and that can be included in the plans.
Yeah, okay. And those are, I would be legally required to follow those industry standards. I don't mind if they're not excessive. I just don't want to be in a situation where, you know, I don't know, I have to get like a professional arborist to tell me, you know, how I have to cut their roots and gold plate them, you know, the ends of them or something. You know, I want to know what's not just industry standard, but what's required by code for me to treat those roots. You know, what is required by code for me to get my application approved?
Well,
And
normally
satisfy this work.
we normally if a project is going to harm a neighboring property in any way, we look for ways to mitigate that and solve that problem, regardless of whether it's stormwater or tree, killing the neighbor's trees.
Mhm.
So.
I mean, every project can harm, your neighbor.
Mr.
Depending on how you look at it.
Mr. Gary.
I mean, look, if my neighbor has pump jacks holding up the stairs, and if my neighbor has pump jacks holding up their front stairs for 8 months of the year, or is covering their house with tarp for 10 months, those are, that's harming me.
Okay.
I don't really have any, if they keep their house in such a way that it's got holes in the side that I could see through the side of the house because it's termite infested, that's their right to do that. Do I like it? No, but.
All right.
Chapter
Can you-
300-3E specifically states, the location of the pool shall be such that it will not adversely affect any neighboring premises, property, or structures.
So my pool is not adversely affecting.
All right,
neighbor.
but may I just,
Please.
Kathy, can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
I don't,
word in edgewise here.
we're not going to be arguing over this now, but I do see that Ms. Oakley's memo does talk about things you could consider, Mr. Gary, about changing the size of the pool, changing the location of the pool.
We're not
I
going to
said-
do any of those because they will impact. I'm not going to do
Please
that.
stop interrupting members of the planning board, sir.
Sorry,
People
sorry.
speak, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I suspect you're somewhat limited in all of that because what you're showing us on the screen right now shows a rock outcropping, which, in this
It's up
area
here.
is not unusual. So there may
Mhm.
very well be rock that you may or may not know about. So I suspect you may be, constrained in
Mhm.
where you put the pool. But I think these are the things that the planning board would be looking to see that you take your best efforts to do the
Mhm.
best you can to
Absolutely.
mitigate the concerns that we've mentioned tonight. So,
Mhm.
we appreciate your willingness to do that.
Mhm.
And so I think we've given you pretty good guidance on where we are and what the code is and how we can work together to move this forward.
Yeah, that's just what we're trying to do. I want to move this
That's
forward. I
right.
want to get this
That's
in
what
this
we're
spring.
trying to do.
Mhm.
Now, before we move on from this application to the next, is there any other person, is your neighbor here or is another neighbor? If you are, please raise your hand if anybody would like to speak on this application. This isn't a public hearing. We're not required to hear any public comments, but we normally do.
So I
as a
did just see
courtesy.
someone raise their hand, but it looks like they put it back down again. If that was an error, then do not raise your hand, but if you could raise your hand, and we will promote you to speak. Okay, I do not see anyone.
Okay, all right. I think we have an idea of what you're proposing. You have an idea of what our concerns are. You have Mr. Esteban Garcia to speak with, and if you'd like to speak with our landscape consultant, Susan Oakley, she's also offered to make herself available and to send you information. And I'm sure if the building inspector wants to get in on this too, he certainly will. Here's a message from.
Hi, I'm sorry, we just got a mess. Oh, is
Yeah,
that?
we got a message from one of the neighbors. Okay, okay. One of the neighbors doesn't have anything to say at this time, but it sounds like they're reserving the right to comment later on. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next application. Thank you, Mr. Geary.
Thank you.
And we will move you back off the panelist and move up the people who are here for the next application. If you want to raise your hand so we can identify you and we'll promote you. Thank you. All right, we have while we're doing this, we have an application for an in-ground swimming pool at 594 Alder Road. While we're pulling people up, Michael Stein, you're sitting in the dark.
Hey, you complained about your lights. My lights are a lot worse. Good evening.
Okay, we've been advised by our planning staff that this is also a type 2 action under SECRA. So we need a motion to declare it a type 2 action under SECRA. Do I have
moved.
a second?
Second.
Okay, Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Ellen, you're muted.
Yes.
And I say yes too. Okay. All right, Mr. Stein and Mr. Hughes. Okay, who is going to speak first?
I will. Again, Michael Stein, President of Hudson Engineering. I'm just going to work on sharing my screen. We're looking at as you had mentioned earlier, a new in-ground pool at 594 Alda. The pool or the property is located in the R10 zoning district. We meet the requirements as far as coverage. Before just going into the design of the pool, as is customary with all of our projects, we do percolation and deep hole testing in the location of the stormwater practice. We got down 96 inches without any problem, without encountering groundwater or ledge rock. And we observed percolation, a very favorable percolation rates of 7.5 inches per hour. We are providing a stormwater mitigation for all the new impervious areas, collecting all the runoff from the pool and patio terrace and putting that into the system. Because the limits of disturbance will exceed the 2,000 square foot threshold, we're proposing water quality and submitting calculations reflecting the water quality component, which is basically called an isolation route. It's just a certain way you have to put in the Coltex to make sure that they can be cleaned out and any debris removed. Currently, there are along the side, rear, and both sides and the rear property lines, there is significant screening already installed. I'll share just a bird's eye view. Along all the sides, we have arborvitae. The existing tree right here, that's going to be protected during construction. And there's some significant trees to the rear of the property. So there is existing substantial screening already for the pool area.
Those trees, are the trees that are screening in the rear, or they belong to the applicant, or are they on the neighbor's property?
All through here, these are all, you can see right on our plan where the survey had located them. There's a small grouping right along this side that actually are on the neighbor's property. There's existing fence that goes along certain edges of the perimeter. We'll be putting gates and connecting on either side of the house to access the rear of the property. Just from a couple of questions from before, it's not anticipating that there will be any lighting other than lighting within the pool itself. So obviously very dim lighting that will be there, and no sound systems or anything along that lines will be going in. Immediately to the rear of the house on the right side is where the pool equipment is going, right in this area. I think that's it. I'm not sure if you have I'm here for any questions the board may have. We did receive the comments from Keller Sessions' office. Nothing that was of any concern to our office that we're confident we can get this addressed with their office before the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Well,
any members of the planning board have any questions for the applicant or any of the consultants?
I don't see a lot of patio space. I see sort of one end of the rectangle has so it looks like more substantive patio, but otherwise it looks just like it's like a walking area around the pool. Is that right? Am I looking at this right?
That's correct. And you can see there's also relatively minor grading. The rear yard is pretty much flat for the most part. So there's only a minor patio area that is being proposed.
And the Coltex go into the isolation row?
Yes, the Coltex, they are the isolation row. Again, it's just a certain way of installing the Coltex. Basically, they're installed with a base fabric below the units, so they can be cleaned out or jetted out of any debris that may accumulate.
And that's why you have an agreement with the village in terms of maintenance of those Coltex?
I think that agreement is kind of universal for all the projects, but it's still because we're breaching the 2,000 square foot threshold of disturbance. We have to provide the water quality, basically. I mean, either way, we'd have to provide some type of means and methods for maintenance.
And the fencing, can you just show me on your screen with your cursor where the the fence?
There's fencing right along here. That's where the gate is. This is a new fence. You can see this line with these small blocks that comes up to about this point, and that connects to an existing stockade fence that goes along this side and then changes to chain link fence on this along the rear, and then back to stockade fence along this side up to where we're putting in a new gate along at this corner of the house.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any change in elevation or fill being brought in?
If anything, there's gonna be fill being brought out, and the change in elevation is relatively minimal. It's just a little bit on this side of the pool. There's a little bit of cut that will be happening. You can see the 35 contour just extends around this end of the pool a little bit.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
So will there be rock chipping involved in that change?
No, it's not anticipated any rock will be encountered. The test holes for the test hole we performed, we got down to a depth of 96 inches without encountering groundwater or ledge rock. So we expect that to be universal throughout where we're doing the work.
Okay. Okay, so because there's no new landscaping proposed, we don't have landscaping plan. We don't have any comments on changes to the landscape. And you have the memo from Mr. Garcia at Keller Sessions, and you'll work to respond to any concerns that he's raised in that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us before we open up this meeting? I believe there are some neighbors here. They've contacted us that they would like to speak on this application. So before
nothing I'm aware of. I tried to download the letter from Mr. Tiekert. Unfortunately, it wasn't coming through on the link.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, as I mentioned with the previous application, our procedure right now sort of gets a jump on things. Our consultants start reviewing things before we even open the application at the planning board meeting. So the fact that a member of the public gave comment on the stormwater plan before our consulting engineer did, it's a little premature. So we're gonna move forward with our process, and the comments there are for your use. If and Mr. Garcia will review them as he reviews your application. If there's anything that he feels that you need to address, he'll incorporate that with his comments. But as far as our process, we hadn't even started it yet to get comments on something telling us we didn't do something. Well, we know we didn't do it. We didn't start yet. So I think we're okay about that. So we'll put that aside and we'll address it at the next time you come before us, which, will probably be the next meeting if you can tie up all the loose ends.
Please also note that there are two ways in which you can access the documents for any hearing item or meeting item, excuse me. On the village website, there's an online agenda and there's a download PDF option. So I'm not sure which one wasn't working, but if you click download PDF, all of the documents will come in, and it would be in whatever order they are that you would scroll to find. It should be, if it were recent, at the bottom. And then the online PDF option gives you a clickable link where you can then download the materials. So
It
it's
was
either of
on
those.
my agenda. It just came up saying there's a PDF and you have to use some other program to use it. So, but it's not a problem. I know you're talking about the PDF download, so that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, we'll
You can
try,
email us if you
we'll
have
try as we get comments coming in to share them with the applicant as they come in as well. But this one wasn't really sort of an official comment because it sort of came in before we did anything. So we'll wait and see if there are any comments that come in after we have more information for people to comment on.
Actually, just so you know, it's the same exact way on the PDF download.
Okay, all right, we'll have to fix that. We've been having problems.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not to.
No, it's okay. You know.
Yeah, if you can email the planning department, we can resolve any technical issues.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, so if no one from the planning board has any other questions and the applicant basically feels that they've presented everything to us, Mr. Stein, if you want to remove your, I did want to know about the African trips that's on. But we'll do that another time.
2022, summer of 2022.
2022, I hope you can travel then. Okay, so if I do believe that there are some neighbors who would like to speak. So if you could raise your hand or use the comment function at the bottom of your screen. If you want to speak on camera, raise your hand and we'll promote you to a participant in the meeting. And again, as I said before, this isn't a public hearing. We don't have any legal obligation to open the meeting up to the public, but because we've been contacted by neighbors and they've expressed some concern, and because we normally, if somebody has some comments, allow people to voice those comments, we will go forward. And so if you raise your hand, Amber, our village planner, will promote you and we'll hear your concerns.
So we'll be hearing everyone in the order in which they have appeared, anyone who wishes to speak.
Okay, and I believe the applicant, that's you, Mr. Kligman, right? He's here also to listen as well. Okay. All right.
Voted Mary Leonard. So if you can unmute, you are able to speak.
Okay, you're up, Mary.
Okay, raise my hand, is that right?
No, you're set. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, good evening. I'm a neighbor of the applicant for this, the addition to his property. My house, my property is behind the applicant's property. And the reason I wanted to speak tonight is because I'm concerned about an incident relating to a sinkhole which developed on my property a few years ago. And as a little background, the property that the applicant now owns had a one-story house and an in-ground pool on the property, which is about approximately 2014, both of which were demolished. And eventually the house that the applicants had purchased was built, and they bought it, I believe, in 2015. The reason that I'm concerned is about several years prior to 2014, a large sinkhole developed on my property. And it was approximately 10 to 12 feet in diameter. And my husband and I kept trying to have it filled in and bring it up to grade level. And it was just impossible. Nothing would happen. And we exhausted all our theories and gardener theories. And so we just let it stay. But then in 2014, the pool and the house, the one-story house on the applicant's property was demolished. And we noticed that gradually, with the pool no longer there, the sinkhole began to fill in. And by the next year, it was totally gone. We went back to grade level on this whole section of my yard, which is very close to the applicant's property. It's on the side of the lot that is nearest to the applicant's property. And we concluded, and several gardeners we had consulted concluded that it's very possible that the sinkhole was a result of the some groundwater change in the land, and it when it was removed finally, whatever that problem was, it disappeared, and the sinkhole happily disappeared with it. Now, the applicants are going to put in a new in-ground pool, and I am very concerned that this incident may happen again. I'm not an expert, obviously, in this field, but it seems very likely that the cause of the sinkhole was related to the pool that was demolished. And now here, several years later, another in-ground pool is going to be installed. And I'm just asking you, people on the planning board, is there anything I can do before this project really starts to be finalized to protect myself and my property from something like this happening again? Is there anything that the applicants can do by way of testing or possibly having an expert look at the situation to see if this won't, I'm hoping, of course, that this won't happen again, but I'd like to know if there's any way I could protect myself and my property from the possibility of another sinkhole. If the first in-ground pool, which of course is now long since removed, was related to the cause of the sinkhole developing. So I'd like the comments of any of you on the planning board, if there's anything you feel can be done to prevent this from happening again once the pool is constructed and operational. And I would certainly like and appreciate your comments if you could give me that. What perhaps the applicants can do to prevent the possibility of this happening in my yard.
Okay. Okay. I guess this falls under the same category that we were talking about of the code the last time, about impact on neighboring properties, slightly different.
Yes.
However, the sinkhole, did the sinkhole appear after the old pool was put in? Like immediately, like, you know, I don't know, the engineers among us would have to tell us, or Frank, the building inspector, would have to tell us if that's possible, given the fact that the sinkhole filled in when the pool was removed. Is this somehow related? I have no idea.
My conclusion, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Looking at the aerial mapping from Westchester County GIS, the pool was installed prior to 1990. I can't tell if in 1976 the photo is clear enough, but it's I believe it was sometime between that time, between 76 and 90. I'm not sure. Installation of a pool here, whether it replaced an old one or not, short of it leaking and having issues along that line, how that really could be a potential problem.
Well, does anybody know, and Mr. Stein, you may know this, or Mr. Kleeman, the owner, is Mrs. Leonard's property downhill from Mr. Kleeman's property?
Give me 1 second. I can... The rear of the property and her entire property are almost exactly on the same grade plane.
On the same grade plane.
Yeah, I mean, she on her left side and right side property lines is elevation 36, which is about the same in the backyard, 35, 36 on 594, and then the front of her property is elevation 34. So it's an extremely flat area.
Mm-hmm. So you contend that the only way this would happen would be if the old pool had been leaking?
Also, that was a thought also, that there had been a crack in the old pool, and that had caused the water to flow into my yard and create the sinkhole.
But I'm not exact. I mean, it's a potential that could have been a cause, but without really knowing any more detail.
Right. And we'll never know because the old pool's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Any underground streams in the area?
Would have no idea.
There are underground streams in the neighborhood because I live in that neighborhood, but I don't know if there's any over there, but I know there are underground streams in the neighborhood. So,
That could be a cause.
yeah. Yeah. Cindy, we can't
Do
hear
you have
you.
any suggestions that can be done, possibly?
Well, you know, we don't know what to do because it's hard in retrospect to determine what caused the sinkhole. If the old pool was indeed leaking and that caused the sinkhole, and when the pool was removed, the sinkhole was filled in, a new pool wouldn't cause that same problem. Okay. Here's Cindy's question. Is the new proposed pool being installed in the same place as the old pool? Does anybody know that? Because the house is completely different. The house is much larger. The footprint of the house is much larger than the old house.
This is the aerial from 2011, I believe. 2011, 2013.
All right, I need somebody to mute themselves. We're getting background noise again. Okay, this is the new house. Oh, this is the old house?
This is the old house before it was torn down, and that's the pool. I'm not exactly sure the relation. I mean, from looking at our plan, our pool looks like it's further from the property line. But, and the other, and so that's why, and also just while I have this up, this is where I'm going back to 1990, that shows the pool here.
Right.
But again, these are aerial, so, I mean, there's gonna be a margin of error exactly where this is located.
Could you go back to the other picture that was clearer?
Sure, this is 1976, which to me, it doesn't look like there was a
There's
pool
a pool
present.
there, right. Okay, so the house directly behind that has the 55 on it, Mrs. Leonard, is that your?
595, the Parkway.
No, that's the house adjacent to mine. Mine is 607 the Parkway.
So yours is over here? Here, which one?
Right adjacent to 595.
Okay, okay. So where was the sinkhole approximately, in the back here?
In the side of the backyard nearer to the applicant's property.
In this area?
Right about there, yeah, right about there.
Okay.
That's a good spot right there.
Okay. You know, it's really difficult for us to determine what caused it and how to prevent it, given the fact that all the evidence, I guess, the evidence is gone. But we have some esteemed engineers on the panel with us tonight, and they would be the best people to also speculate. And it sounds like it's plausible. It could be it had been a leak in the original pool, but I don't know what else to tell you.
And that could have been even the reason they got rid of the pool when they demolished the house, instead of trying to keep
Right.
it and try to rehabilitate it.
Right.
Again, all speculation.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't, unless there's an underground stream there that would be disturbed.
We also thought of that, an underground stream was disturbed. That was one of the theories.
You'd have to go back to some really old maps before the community was built to try to map underground streams. It's not easy to find, but we know that there are some in the neighborhood. There's some that do run under houses on the Parkway, but I know of some on the other side over by where Roger Serlin's house is. There's one there, I know, and then there's one a little further up. But I don't think there's anything that can be done at this point in time to say that's not going to happen again, because we don't really know what caused it.
Well, it's a problem, and I realize that, but I did want you to be aware of this.
Right. Okay. I think.
I do have a second issue. If there's nothing affirmative can be done, for me to protect myself against another sinkhole using a good portion of my side yard. And I gather you don't believe there is anything that can be done. Am I correct about that?
Can anybody think of something that can, I mean, other than
Yes,
the
so-
engineers being aware? Oh, here's our building inspector. Good. jump in.
Kathleen, another possible cause for a sinkhole, it was common practice years ago when houses were built to bury stumps on the site. When they cleared the site, they would bury the stumps. Sometimes the stumps would take 20 years to, there'd be huge hole that would eventually disintegrate, and then you'd have a sinkhole later. You'd have a big depression. And that could have been it. I mean, I don't know when Mrs. Leonard's house was built, maybe many more years than what I'm thinking, but that was done. That was a common practice before we became more environmentally sensitive to that type of thing. Now we truck stumps off the site when someone's going to build a house.
Yeah, 70s. The house was built in 1978, and we were the first owner and the original, and so.
So that's very possible. That's very possible that the builder of the house buried stumps there.
So how would it then spontaneously fill in?
That I don't know.
Right.
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, right. When the pool was removed, the sinkhole disappeared.
You said you tried to, Mrs. Leonard, did you say you tried to fill it at different
We
times?
tried a number of times to fill it in with soil, and it just kept sinking, as far as they're called sinkholes. But when the old pool was removed, the problem was gone. Within a few months, it didn't happen immediately, of course.
So if they did bury stumps on that site, they would dig a hole 12, 14 feet deep and fill it with all the stumps at the bottom, and then put like 2 feet of soil over it. And then when the stumps eventually disintegrate, that's when you get the sinkhole.
Right. That's interesting to know. All right. Okay.
Just
I think that I think you've alerted the applicant and his engineers to be on the lookout and be careful. And you've alerted the planning board's consulting engineer and the building inspector. So I think you did what you had to do tonight.
Yeah, I have a second point,
Okay.
and that and it won't take long. Quiet enjoyment. My husband is deceased, and I'm alone in my house, and I do enjoy the backyard, the deck, and having my children and grandchildren visit, and having meals on the patio. And I just hope that everything is going to be done by the applicant to try to minimize the noise, which is going to happen. It's inevitable from the use of their property, for which they're totally entitled, of course, to protect myself and the other neighbors that would like to use the yard and the deck and outside dining over the summer months. And I thought particularly of adding a number of shrubberies along the perimeter of the property, but it appears from the map I've looked at that either has been done or already is done. That there are trees and shrubs that seem to line the property in the back of the applicant's house. I'd just like to be assured that the applicant will consider doing everything that is possible to prevent excessive noise for their use of the property that would impact the neighbors' enjoyment of their adjacent lots. That I don't know if there's anything further that could be done, added in the way of shrubbery or trees to sort of muffle the noise from the pool. And I believe there's going to be a fire pit too. So there'll be lots of activity on the applicant's lot. And I'm just hoping that the noise will be kept to a reasonable minimum for the rest of us to enjoy our properties. That was my only other comment.
Thank you. Does anybody from the applicant's team want to respond to that?
The fire pit, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John. Brian.
No, this is Gary, actually. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry that I've been so quiet. I'm in the hospital battling COVID.
Oh,
and
sorry.
Yes, but thank you, everybody, for being understanding. And I've had Brian, obviously, and Mike Hudson on the call, and Mary, for your peace of mind, without question, with the pool and my children being in the backyard, I would never be disrespectful to the neighbors. I would make sure that they keep it down I understand that, people nearby don't want to hear noise all night. I won't have that going on there under any circumstances. I have put in a ton of shrubbery before I even put the pool, thought of putting the pool in. I put in arborvitaes all along the side of my yard. And when I'm fully completed with the pool, I plan on putting shrubberies in every single spot where there's openings in the fence. So there'll be total privacy, and my neighbors will not be impacted by having to, look into the backyard and, see people out there from when they're on their deck. So our plan is to, add as much shrubbery as necessary to make sure that everybody is happy with, their view and not impacted whatsoever.
Well, thank you. That's very encouraging. I'm so pleased that you could be with us and explain what you plan to do to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And furthermore, I do believe potentially, I don't know about that old pool, but I understood from the builder when I bought the house, they did not salvage the pool. And I was under the impression that there were problems with it. I believe they probably, for resale, would have tried to keep it because it would have been, more valuable to sell me a house with the pool there. So the fact that they just, took it out, it led me to believe that the pool was in disrepair.
Okay.
Yes, we had heard that too. There were cracks in the pool.
Yes. So I'm probably, it's probably, I'm not sure, but it may have been doing something, for that to leak, somewhere in the property or wherever, because they took it out.
Thank you for joining us from your hospital bed. We hope you feel better, and thanks for enlightening us on what you know about the issue. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We have another person who wishes to speak.
Oh, yes, another person weighing in on the sinkhole. This is Mr. Geary from Barrymore Lane. If the sinkhole went away when the pool was removed, then there was likely underground leakage from the pool carrying the soil away. Thank you. Like I said, we had engineers here tonight, so they're all weighing in. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to promote Wayne Clay up to panelist who has their hand raised. His hand raised.
Okay.
And if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
Good evening, everybody. It's Wayne here.
Okay.
Hi. Did you have a public comment to offer?
I think
all
the
sorry,
points.
Before you continue, could you just identify yourself? Just give us your address.
So my name is Wayne Clay. I'm with Shoreline Pools. I've been associated with Gary Kligman's pool project from the beginning.
Okay.
And worked with Michael Stein in tandem as far as addressing any concerns.
Okay.
I don't want to, I had raised my hand earlier regarding the sinkhole issue. I don't think we need to really talk further on the point. All I was going to say is in my 20 plus years of being in the pool business and looking at site conditions, typically sinkholes were caused, and I'm not so much in Mamaroneck, but for instance in Harrison, Park Lane Association, a lot of the properties experienced sinkholes, and it was because improper fill was brought in or debris was buried and tree stumps and so forth were put in, were not removed off the property. And consequently, as the engineer had stated earlier, they settle, they decompose over 20 years, and then you have this void or depression in the soil. And so that I just wanted to comment on that. And as far as the proposed pool, we always add more than adequate quantities of gravel for the subsoil, and we take all the precautions necessary. And if there is organic matter, we always make sure that it is removed and that the pool is backfilled properly. And so, again, we take pride in the work that we do. And yes, I have a vested interest here because we're hoping to build Gary Kligman's pool. But at the end of the day, You know, we want to do it properly, and we want to make sure that the client is happy, but also that no issues ensue on any of the neighboring properties.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any, anybody on the planning board have any questions for Mr. Klee? Okay, thanks very much. Are there any other neighbors or anybody else who wants to speak on this? I think we've covered everything.
So we did have someone raise their hand. I believe it was Sandra Schwartz earlier, but her hand was lowered. Ms. Schwartz, if you're looking to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise we will, oh, so we do have a hand raised.
Okay.
And if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Sandy Schwartz, and we are the new owners of 595, which is right in back of Gary's property. Although we're new owners, we've been in Shore Acres for 45 years, so we're not new to the area. And Gary, I really hope that you are feeling better quickly. I'm so sorry you're in the hospital. And Mary, thank you for speaking so beautifully for all of us. You are a great role model for all of us in Shore Acres. So thank you so much. I had just one or two questions. And we also had sinkholes all over our property. So I'm assuming it was from the old pool. And I know the new pool by Shoreline will not cause sinkholes. If you take a look at the bird's eye view, there's an area in the back of the house that does not have any plantings for some reason. They seem to have stopped at some point. And I was just wondering if those were going to be filled in. Most of the trees that you see are on our property. I know there are some cedars along the back of the Gary's property. So I just want to make sure that some more arborvitaes were going to be put in all the way across. The other picture shows where it stops, the site plan. You
I'm
have
sorry.
that?
Yeah, the site plan.
The site plan. Yeah.
That area right here.
Yeah, for some reason they stopped. I'm not sure why. So I just wanted to request that they go all the way across. These are some old cedars that are not really in very good shape. We do have quite a bit of plantings on our property, which we'll, be working on, but I would request if these could be 6 to 8 foot arborvitaes to screen from our property, we would really appreciate that.
Sure. I'd like to answer this. Good evening, board. My name is Brian Hughes. I'm the construction manager for Mr. Kligman. I believe Mr. Kligman explained to the board that every inch of space will be filled in with substantial plantings, presumably arborvitaes, because that will match. But to answer your question, yes, there will be complete and total privacy at the end of this project.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
This
you.
is a good time to remind the applicant then, if you are adding plants, then we will need them on the plan, and we will need more information. You'll have to follow the code requirements for new landscaping, and our landscape consultant will then review them for appropriateness. And, if it's more arborvitae, good for you, because I live in Shore Acres and the deer love arborvitae.
Yes, I do.
So if it's working for you, fine.
We will.
Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in there because this is new information for the planning board. We didn't have any indication of any new plantings. So new plantings means you have to do a little bit more work to get us a landscape plan. Okay, I'm
No
sorry,
problem.
Sandy, go ahead.
It's fine, right, Kathy. We're happy to see this. We're hoping that there's a neighborhood swim time for us too, for neighbors. That would be great. We love to swim. I have one other question, and this is really not for the applicant, but for the board. For years, there was a fire hydrant on this property. I see it's now in the corner of the property. Has that been decommissioned? Has that been replaced someplace? Anybody know that?
That would be a question for the Westchester Joint Waterworks.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Tavalacci knows anything about it. But if it's been moved, it would have to be moved with the approval of the waterworks. And if it's been decommissioned, they would be the ones who know. They're the owners of the fire hydrants.
Okay, thank you.
I just happen to know that. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your screen again. So
Sorry, I'll pull it down.
okay, thank you. Okay, is that everything for this application? Now, and Ashley and Amber can answer this question. Do both these applications now have to go to BAR for input before we approve the site plan, then BAR, you
So
know?
680 Barrymore already went to the Board of Architectural Review.
Okay.
I'd need to confirm, but I believe they received approval contingent upon review by the planning board.
Okay.
So I don't believe they would need to go back. And then.
Okay, and then, so now Alder Road would have to go to BAR, just to make sure we're all on the same page before we approve the site plan, so they aren't changing anything after we approve the site plan.
Like improvement without the new shrub plan.
Who's speaking? I'm sorry. Okay. All right, so whenever they're ready, you know, we need a landscape plan. I don't know what BAR requires for them to see, but we just have to include the BAR, make sure we have that piece in there.
Will we get to see the site plan with the new shrubbery?
All the documents will be posted on the village's website. So you'd be able to see any update. The way the planning board process works is the Friday before the Friday.
Yeah, we'll post the agenda and materials the Friday before the week of the hearing. So just to clarify, this will be coming back for review by the planning board. So there will be another
meeting, right. So the Friday before the Wednesday of the planning board, the materials are all assembled. They're sent to the planning board members, and they're also posted on the village's website. But in order to meet that deadline, the applicant has to get them in a little bit before so we can assemble them. But if it's an open application, I mean, it gets a little complicated, but we try to accommodate everybody, but they will definitely be posted on the website. And if there's any problem with downloading, as Mr. Stein pointed out earlier, we'll try to work that out. We are lucky to have Amber with us. She's figured this out before, working with the IT people for the village. So we'll make sure that everyone can get it. And if there's a problem, you can always contact the planning department. They can try to get the documents to you. Okay, thank you.
I do not see anyone else with their hand raised who wishes to speak from the audience.
Okay. So that concludes this part of the agenda. We have.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Feel better.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your concerns, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of us who are going into executive session, and I guess the staff, except Amber, can leave us for the evening, so good evening. We need a motion to go into executive session or advice of counsel session. It's pretty much the same, to seek the advice of legal counsel with connection with the ongoing litigation against the village planning board. I have to call Mr. Spolzino to let him know that we need him now. We're going to follow the agenda that was put into the email. I guess we can say which litigation we're talking about, right? We can say what litigation we're talking about. So we're going to do Hampshire first, and then we're going to move on to ABC properties against the village after Hampshire. So John, I'm sorry, you're recused from Hampshire.
Kathy, we need to vote?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Right, when we're ready. Yes.
Okay.
I just was explaining this. Okay. So
Kathy,
we got a link.
When should I come back?
We'll call you. How about I text you on your, can I text you on your?
Yeah, text me, sure. Text me.
Yeah, as soon as we're ready, I'll text you, okay?
Great, thank you.
And then, because you're the only one who needs to come back, we would have to get 2-3 people back if we did it the flip way.
Yeah, I saw your email, but I
And we,
appreciate
we
it.
love you and we know you can
Yes.
handle this. Right?
Yes, I know
Right.
you're not going to be brief, so I'll have some time to maybe
All
grab a
right.
bite.
Well, we may be. It's just an update. So it's just
Okay.
an update, based on the latest court.
I'll look for your text.
Okay, all right. So I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss these 2 litigation actions.
Right, I guess for advice of counsel, I'll make the motion.
That's okay, advice.
Second.
Who second? Richard? Richard
Yes.
second. Okay, let's vote. Richard,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Okay.
Are you
so
coming back here or is it a different?
We're going to come back here to close out this meeting when we're finished with the executive session. We have to do that, so we will do that. But we have to leave this meeting and go to the other Zoom meeting.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, and then come back to this meeting, just to make life complicated. Right, thank you, everyone. See you in a minute.
Kathy, quick question. It's me. Was John Henry one of the invitees that you added to the?
To the Hampshire, yes.
Okay.
He's
I
the,
see his name and I wasn't.
he's, right, Teresa's, he does the litigation for
Gotcha.
Teresa's firm. Okay.
Okay, perfect. I'm starting
Okay.
the meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Should we wait for John?
We probably,
No, we have a quorum. Let's just do it.
well, I was gonna say, we probably should, because he could be trying to log on and then
Right. Right, and then if he logs on, we're all done. I'll feel bad.
sit there.
Right. We'll give him a couple of minutes. He didn't say he wasn't coming back.
Oh, you told him he didn't have to.
No, that was Ellen.
Oh, okay.
I know, they look alike.
I'm zoomed out. Forgive me.
There was something I saw on the news today, and they were interviewing this guy. He was on Zoom. He's on Zoom an average of 10 hours a day for work, his job. I couldn't even imagine it. All right, come on, John. We're being recorded now, by the way.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Don't be like that school board in California.
Dangerous stuff.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We're coming out of executive session. I need a motion to come out of executive session or advice of counsel session. They're really both the same, but we were.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Take a vote. Cindy,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
I vote yes. We should record that Ellen is now excused. She's not returning. So when Barbara watches this for the minutes, and John, we're wondering, he might be coming. Okay, well then, and I should note for the record that here's John.
Yep.
No actions were taken during the advice of counsel session at all. Hi, John. Just in time for us to adjourn.
I heard you, yes.
Oh, you heard? Okay, great. So let's, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for, it was a good meeting. Interesting. We know about sinkholes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ann.